Hi everyone, and this is my third video. I will be discussing about managers and research. The manager while managing people, while managing events, while managing products, uh, commonly encounter problems at work. So big or small, these problems needs to be addressed right away, and the managers should seek ways to find long-lasting solutions to this problem before they get out of hand. So we have here some reasons why the manager should be knowledgeable about research. First, it is to identify and effectively solve minor problems in work settings. As manager managing people, they have to be aware of all or everything that is happening inside the organization, and that includes the performances of its people. One example of a minor problem that could happen inside the organization could be the low motivation and job satisfaction of some employees. If a manager is knowledgeable about research, he will or the manager will easily identify these kinds of problems earlier and can create solutions to prevent employees turnover. So the manager will be able to spot and deal with problems before it could get worse and affect the organization's negatively. Next, to know how to discriminate good from bad research. So we discussed about the example of the minor problem. How about the major problems? If major problems happen in the organization, I think it is like unnecessary for the manager to hire consultants or researchers to work with them to solve that major problem. So one example of a major problem is like the companies increasing tougher and big competitors in the market. So in this case, the organization can hire researchers and consultants that can help them find solutions. So there will be new ideas or strategies without taking so much time of the manager or the organization, and maybe it can also be cost savings. If the manager is knowledgeable about the research design, the processes, or the manager knows how to interpret this data that is from the research, then the manager can also be a discriminating recipient of the research. So he will be able to differentiate good and bad research. So he can then decide if such recommended solutions are appropriate or effective and useful for the implementation. So the manager can evaluate and recommend solutions or ideas too. So next is appreciate and be constantly aware of the multiple influences and multiple effects of factors impinging on a situation, and take calculated risk in decision making, making full well of the probabilities associated with the different possible outcomes. So managers should carefully consider decision making, since such knowledge can sharpen the sensitivity of every manager. So if the manager is knowledgeable about research, he can easily understand research reports. Then he can calculate risk or estimate risk before actions are undertaken. Next, prevent possible vested interests from exercising their influence in situation. Uh, Vested interest, these are strong personal interest of some employees inside the organization. So if the manager is knowledgeable enough, so the manager can easily identify bias in some datas, and he can analyze also data, so that way he can prevent and spot those biases, and so they can provide a good and correct ideas or informations in the research. So relate to hired researchers and consultants more effectively, combine experience with scientific knowledge while making decisions. So if the manager is knowledgeable about research, he can relate easily to the researchers. So she can easily share pertinent informations to the researcher, which can make the research smooth and easy for both parties. So next, let's have here the manager and the consultant researcher. So what is a consultant? So a consultant is a person who provides professional or expert advice in a particular field or business to either an individual or organization. A consultant researcher is a person that conducts specialized and targeted research on behalf of a client to produce a final analysis of key findings, provides reports in areas that the company's full-time staff cannot provide. So managers often needs consultants to study some of the more complex problems inside the organization, those time-consuming problems also inside the organization. So in the business world, it is very common and necessary for managers to hire and deal with consultants and researchers. In hiring researchers and consultant, it is very important to consider the following. The rules and expectations of both parties are made explicit. So in such case, the manager should clearly discuss the rules for the researcher and the management so that they can have an effective interaction. Next, if the relevant philosophies and value systems of the organization are clearly stated and constraints, if any, are communicated. So relevant to philosophies and value systems, uh, this should be discussed on the outset. So, for example, if the research team might strongly believe that and recommend the reduction of workforce to reduce operating costs, but then the management's philosophies is not to fire employees who are experienced, loyal, and seniors, then this is going to be a conflict of ideologies to the researchers and management. That is the reason why it is very important to discuss these philosophies or value system before the research is being conducted. That is to avoid conflicts in both parties. And next is a good rapport established with the researchers and between the researchers and the employees in the organization, enabling the full cooperation of the latter. So a good rapport established and there should be good rapport. So understanding in both parties with the cooperation of all employees inside the organization, research will be done easily and correctly by the researchers. So creating rapport and trust levels between the two parties also can motivate can be a motivation with the two parties to interact effectively. So in this case, the researchers can freely approach the management, and seek assistance in making research more purposely.